Welcome to Megapath Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today let's talk about The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 12, Predictions. I got nothing. Nothing. Rosita's a bitch, and Rick and Michonne find guns, find a lot of walkers. Listen, there's a really cool set piece. It looks like a small fair or something that fell during the outbreak, and it's all grown in. But it also looks like next to the fair they set up some kind of like a FEMA camp, something with soldiers. Because in the sneak peek, let me put this out there right now, because I get a lot of people who are like, "Hey, Ronnie," when they say my name, I feel like they've been watching this channel for a little bit, so it confuses me how I get so many people going, "Hey, Ronnie, why didn't you talk about the spoilers from such and such?" Let me put this out there. I'm only doing this video based on what I know from watching the show and what I know from watching the trailer, the preview, and the sneak peek. That's it. And the sneak peek that I watched was Rick and Michonne going to this area, seeing the sheets on the fence, and you can see the silhouette of a zombie soldier, and they said, "Hey, that's what we're here for. We're here for the guns." That's all I got to make this prediction on. That trailer, which there really wasn't much in it, it kind of looks like a filler episode. It kind of looks like, okay, here's a cool set piece. For the money it costs to set up this area for just this episode, we know that this is going to focus on Rick and Michonne primarily at that site, and that's it. So they're going to go there, they're going to see little signs that there might be some guns there, and then they're going to get into some shit and either A, find some guns, B, find some guns and it's not enough, but at least it's a little bit of something, like Michonne got one gun out of it. Maybe find guns but no bullets, or they're only going to find a gun or two and not much else. I'm hoping it's a combination of finding some guns, but it's just not enough, because we still need Oceanside to come into the story, and I honestly feel like they're setting that shit up for it definitely to come in the story. So if it doesn't, it would be like, what? What was the point of that? So let's back it up some. We got Rosita in this bitch too, and I think that's all she's going to do is be a bitch too. We see Rosita at Alexandria talking to somebody in a plaid shirt. It looked like something Tobin has worn before, so maybe she's talking to Tobin, who's not someone who's in deep with the group, so it makes sense that she could get this off her chest by talking to Tobin somewhat. She could even be talking about how, or maybe the conversation starts out with Spencer dying, and since Spencer was there, obviously, with Tobin since the beginning at Alexandria, that makes sense that that conversation would kind of turn into Rosita feeling like she's got to get out of there and do something. She does. She goes to an area. From all I know in the trailer, something startles her, and I have no clue how that's going to incorporate itself into the story. At first I thought maybe she's going to run into Carol, but I just don't see a point in that. Unless she runs into Carol and then she tells Carol the truth about what happened. Rosita is not holding back like Daryl. She's not thinking like that, so she's going to say whatever's on her mind. Rosita and Carol had a moment back in Season 6 where Carol did not turn Morgan in for the wolf. She didn't snitch him out, and she told Rosita not to. So they had a little bit of it wasn't an argument, but they had a little bit of screen time disagreeing, even though Rosita said, "I'm not going to snitch him out." So maybe they're going to do something similar to that. Maybe that was set up for them having or sharing some kind of moment now. But what would that do for the story if Carol knows she's going to go to the kingdom, Daryl's not going to be there, maybe she can have interaction with Morgan, maybe this does kick her into gear, but I want to see a changed Carol from this. I'll circle back around to the point, but I see a lot of fans saying they want Carol to find out about the deaths and then put on some Rambo gear, and go kick some ass. And I want to see that partially. I don't want them to just give up on this Carol that's been going through this transformation that I've taken a look back into the previous seasons, and it goes all the way back to earlier seasons. This is not some shit that just came in Season 5 and 6. This is some shit that started to crack. You really saw the cracks in Season 4 heavily in Season 4. With the Karen and David stuff especially, she started cracking there. She started cracking with the Lizzie Mika stuff, and it continued. Even back then, she tried to leave. Remember, Daryl found her at that point in time, which makes me think now why that wasn't brought up in their interactions together. I really think that was a nice way, now that I'm thinking about it, that would have been a nice way to tie that carol into this carol together with their conversation. Maybe they don't need it, but I thought it would have been nice. Anyway, enough about Carol. I'm sure we will talk about her coming up. But about Rosita, this seems like it could be a situation where she either lets out all her rage on something and she finally says, you know what, I gotta stop being this bitch and then help the group, or she gets the group into some shit. So those are my predictions. I'm either going with she finally gets a level head, like she goes through an experience and she's like, you know what, this, I gotta follow Rick's lead, I gotta help them, we can all do this together, I can't just be hot-headed and rush into this. Or she's going to mess something up. She could even possibly run into the ocean side, depending on which direction she goes. That would be a nice turn of events, because then they could kill her ass. Maybe they could finally get a bullet to actually hit somebody that's running away. Anyway, with Rick and Michonne, we know neither one of them is going to die. So this does look like an episode primarily about finding the guns. It looks like a really cool set piece with really cool walkers, and it looks like it has some really cool action. So I have high hopes for their part of the story. Not too sure about Rosita's portion, but really high hopes for Rick and Morgan. Yeah, Ronnie's a racist. I have really high hopes of Rick and Michonne's portion of the story, and I'm a little bit confused though, because if we have the Oceanside set up and we still get guns, or maybe we go through this whole ordeal and we don't get guns, what are we getting out of this? We do see that moment where Rick and Michonne, or Rick leans over to Michonne and he says, this isn't just about us anymore. Maybe this is a moment where Michonne wants to just leave. Rick, why don't we just cut our losses and get out of here? We see a lot of fans, and it's a rational thing to ask. It's logical. It is, in a big way. Why don't they just leave? Obviously they have Eugene, but come on, it's Eugene. I'm just kidding. My point is, this episode has to do something more than just get the guns or fail at getting the guns. It needs to set something up, and I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing the direction they're going to go as far as this playing a bigger role in the story and not just being a filler episode, and you can have fun filler episodes, and I'm using that word kind of incorrectly, because filler episodes are basically something that can be trimmed out and it doesn't mess with the story. It doesn't make the story confusing, you know what I mean? Like if you had a scene where, oh, this is the moment where they find the key to unlock that door, and you took that out and then you watch it and you're like, wait a minute, how did he get the key? That plays into the plot. So if it plays into the plot, that's fine, but I'm talking about, when I say filler episode, will this be an episode that could have been handled in a completely different way? Hence, this episode, the entirety wasn't even needed. Like the Eugene stuff, the stuff with the wives in the last episode, as of right now, we don't need that at all in the main plot. That was just extra. You could call that stuff filler, sure. We don't even need it for setup, because we know Eugene is smart. We know he can make shit like this. We don't even need to see it to know he can make poison. Maybe they needed that to address why doesn't someone just poison Negan, but then you could go and hate Eugene now because he chose not to poison Negan. So there's some interesting things, and I'm going to fall back. Maybe we will do another prediction video if they release a different sneak peek. They just might, now that I'm thinking about it. I should have held off. But give me your thoughts and opinions down in the comment box. Every time I hold off to try to get more clips, I get people yelling at me, where the f is this shit at? So if they upload another sneak peek, I'll do a follow-up. Until then, put your thoughts, theories, opinions, and predictions in the comment box, and always remember, if you are avoiding spoilers, stay away from comment boxes everywhere that has to do with predictions for The Walking Dead, because people will put spoilers there. There's no way to stop them all, you know what I mean? So be cautious about that. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.